2:55 p.m. on May 14, 2026. The air inside the inner security cordon at Windsor Castle did not just turn cold. It became lethal for the ambitions of the House of Parker BS. While the world outside the ancient stone walls expected a standard royal ceremony honoring the late Queen Elizabeth II, a clinical calculated decapitation of influence was being executed with the precision of a special forces operation. This was the moment the velvet glove was removed, revealing the steel fist of Prince William. At the center of this storm stood Lieutenant Colonel Johnny Thompson, dressed in full Highland regalia. The weight of his traditional kilt and sporran was eclipsed by the authority he carried in his gloved hand, an encrypted tablet containing a revised guest registry. This was not the elegant gold-embossed list curated by Queen Camilla's office over the previous months. This was a working tactical document scarred by aggressive strikes of digital red ink. As the first wave of high society donors and corporate magnates approached the checkpoint leading to St. George's Hall, the atmosphere shifted from ceremonial anticipation to palpable dread. A prominent real estate billionaire, a man who had spent the last 3 months positioning himself as a primary benefactor of Tom Parker Bowles' social circle, stepped forward with the confidence of a man who believed he owned the room. He presented his credentials to the electronic scanner. The device did not chime in. "Welcome." It flashed a sharp neon red. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson did not offer the customary polite apology for a technical glitch. He did not look for a workaround. Instead, he stepped forward, his posture reflecting the rigid discipline of the Royal Regiment of Scotland. According to witnesses, Thompson looked the billionaire directly in the eye and delivered a sentence that has since sent shockwaves through every corridor of power in London. He stated firmly that the individual's registration had been revoked under the authority of Mandate 4. When the bewildered guest attempted to protest, citing his personal invitation from the Queen's son, Thompson's response was a masterclass in institutional coldness. He reportedly told the man that his presence no longer met the security and protocol parameters established for the proceedings and signaled for a security detail to escort him toward a waiting fleet of nondescript black vehicles in the lower ward. If you are shocked by this sudden shift in royal power, you are not alone. This is breaking news that is redefining the British monarchy. As we speak, before we dive into the secret orders that made this possible, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below with the word fortress if you believe Prince William is doing the right thing by protecting the crown. Your engagement helps us bring these high-stakes reports to light. This was not a mistake. It was not a misunderstanding. This was a 5-minute window of total destruction for a burgeoning shadow court. For weeks leading up to this Thursday afternoon, Prince William and Princess Anne had been monitoring the blurred lines of influence surrounding Queen Camilla. With King Charles III retreating into a state of recovery due to his grueling cancer treatments, a vacuum had formed. Tom Parker BS and his associates had begun to fill that space, leveraging their proximity to the Queen to secure consulting deals and international prestige. They were turning the soft power of the monarchy into a private commodity. But on this day, the line was drawn. The phrase Mandate 4 is now being whispered as the ultimate death nail for the Parker Bowles faction. In royal administrative circles, this refers to a high-level override that can only be triggered by the heir to the throne in coordination with the Princess Royal. It is an emergency protocol designed to preserve the institutional alignment of the crown. The confrontation reached a breaking point when a senior palace aide from the Queen's wing rushed to the gate demandingly loudly to know why Her Majesty's personal guests were being turned away like common trespassers. The aide's voice, though hushed, was sharp with the indignation of a household that believed it held the reins of power. Johnny Thompson's reaction was chilling. He did not even look toward the Queen's wing of the palace. Instead, he adjusted his position to stand slightly ahead of a silhouette visible in the hallway behind him, the silhouette of the Prince of Wales. Thompson's voice carried the resonance of a final judgment as he told the aide that he was acting on direct orders from the patron of the event, the Princess Royal, and the heir to the throne. He told her to clear the entrance immediately, emphasizing that the Queen's private preferences were secondary to the security parameters of the state. As the clock struck 3:00 p.m., the purging was complete. In just 300 seconds, William had rewritten the power Dynamics of the monarchy. The opportunists and social climbers were gone, replaced by the silence of a battlefield after the first decisive strike. From a high window, William watched the courtyard clear. Beside him stood Princess Anne. Their alliance is now undeniable, and as of this Tuesday morning, May 19th, the message is deafening. The era of the shadow court is over. The king's house is being put in order, and the architect of this new reality is the man who will one day wear the crown. The surgical removal of guests at the Windsor gates was merely the visible symptom of a much deeper, more systemic cleansing. To understand why Prince William chose to act with such public brutality, one must look at the internal forensic audit titled Project Integrity, a document currently circulating within the highest echelons of Kensington Palace. This is no longer a matter of hurt feelings or palace etiquette. It is a full-scale investigation led by the Royal Financial Intelligence Unit into what insiders are calling the shadow court of Tom Parker BS. The investigative dossier reveals a chilling reality. While King Charles III was focused on his grueling medical journey, a strategic vacuum had emerged. Behind the scenes, a sophisticated network was allegedly exploiting this void to transform royal proximity into a private commodity. This was not a chaotic operation. It was a cold, three-step business model designed to monetize the symbolic capital of the House of Windsor. The mechanism operated with deceptive simplicity. Step 1 was the invitation. Leveraging their close ties to Queen Camilla's office, members of the Parker Bowl Circle would secure spots for wealthy international partners at exclusive, high-level charity events and private receptions. These were individuals who, under normal circumstances, would never pass the rigorous vetting process of the King's General Staff. Step 2 was the activation of influence. Once inside the royal perimeter, these associates were positioned for organic interactions and photographs with the Queen or the King's inner circle. To the outside world, these images served as the ultimate marketing tool, a silent visual endorsement that suggested these individuals were not just guests, but trusted confidants of the British crown. Step 3 was the devastating hero or the final payout. Armed with these photographs and the prestige of royal access, the shadow court members would return to the private sector to finalize multi-million-dollar consulting deals and international property endorsements. They were allegedly selling the illusion of royal patronage to the highest bidder, effectively turning centuries of institutional history into a private sales pitch. Prince William's alarm reached a breaking point when the Royal Financial Intelligence Unit flagged at least 12 major international contracts with direct links to this circle. These dossiers, according to sources familiar with the audit, show a recurring pattern where royal proximity was used to secure luxury brand magnates and venture capitalists in markets ranging from the Middle East to Southeast Asia. For the Prince of Wales, this represented the most dangerous form of institutional rot, the blurring of lines between public duty and private gain. He reportedly viewed these 12 contracts as evidence of a parasitic influence that threatened to destroy the monarchy's remaining credibility. The audit suggests that the shadow court was not just seeking social standing. They were building an independent satellite of influence that operated outside the oversight of the Prince of Wales and the Princess Royal. This was an attempt to create a monarchy for profit, a concept that stands in direct opposition to the lean, disciplined institution William is determined to lead. The tension within the palace as of this Tuesday morning is focused on the contents of these 12 folders. Each one represents a breach of trust and a violation of the Elizabeth and standard of service. As these financial trails are being traced back to specific offices within the Queen's wing, the question is no longer whether there will be a fallout, but how deep the purge will go. If William found 12 contracts today, the world is left wondering what else is hidden in the ledgers that have yet to be opened. The discovery of this mechanism has changed the game, turning a family rift into a battle for the very soul of the crown's integrity. The fallout from the Windsor purge has now reached the private residences of the royal family, sparking a debate that threatens to divide the House of Windsor forever. As of this Tuesday morning, May 19, 2026, reports are surfacing of a high-tension meeting held at Bagshot Park, the home of Prince Edward. The Duke of Edinburgh, known for his steady hand and preference for family unity, is reportedly horrified by the clinical nature of William's actions. According to insiders, The atmosphere was thick with resentment as Edward confronted the Prince of Wales and Princess Anne. He was heard asking a question that now defines this crisis. Are we saving the dynasty, or are we tearing it apart? Edward's fear is that such a public and brutal removal of the Queen's social circle will create a permanent scar on the monarchy's image. He reportedly argued that the humiliation of the Queen's guests at the Windsor gates has created a public relations disaster that could take years to repair. But the response he received from the Princess Royal was a chilling reminder of the stakes involved. And, who has spent decades as the most hardworking and disciplined member of the family, did not offer a compromise. She reportedly delivered what can only be described as a strategic ultimatum, stating that tradition cannot be auctioned to the highest bidder. For and in William, the survival of the crown is not a family matter. It is a matter of state. They view the encroachment of the Parker Bowles faction not as a social nuisance, but as a direct violation of the Elizabeth and standard of duty. The tactical genius of this move lies in the choice of the enforcer. William did not use a team of lawyers or a public relations firm to handle the removals at Windsor. He used Lieutenant Colonel Johnny Thompson. To the public, Thompson is a familiar face, the king's loyal equerry in Highland dress. But within the palace walls, he is the man who holds the keys to the operating system of the monarchy. Thompson manages the king's most sensitive schedules, his secure communications, and his private audiences. By having Thompson act as his executioner at the Windsor gates, William sent a psychological shockwave through every royal household. It signaled that the administrative heart of the king's reign has already shifted, its loyalty to the successor. When the operating system of the sovereign begins to take orders from the heir, it means the transition of power is no longer a future event. It has already been executed in silence. This shift has ignited a sense of deep indignation among those loyal to the late Queen's legacy. The realization that the king's battle with illness was allegedly being used by the Parker Bowles circle as a window of opportunity to secure private consulting deals has turned a quiet administrative review into a moral crusade. William's use of Thompson was a signal to the world that the shadow court would find no refuge in the king's own staff. While Edward worries about the unity of the family, William and are focused on the integrity of the institution. They have formed a steel alliance that views the commercialization of royal access as an existential threat. The question now is whether the Queen's office can survive this level of institutional isolation. With the Prince of Wales controlling the gates and the Princess Royal controlling the protocol, the Parker BS faction is finding itself trapped in a fortress of William's making. But as the family gathers for the critical summer months, one must wonder what happens when the king finally finds the strength to address the man who has already taken control of his house. The answer may lie in a secret document that was signed in the shadows just 48 hours ago, one that changes the legal landscape of the palace forever. The silence following the Windsor incident was not a sign of peace. It was the quiet before a permanent legal storm. By Saturday, May 16, 2026, the physical purge at the gates transitioned into an immutable administrative reality. In the private quarters of Buckingham Palace, King Charles III, exhausted by his medical struggles, but seeking to stabilize his house, signed a document that has effectively rewritten the internal power structure of the British monarchy. It is known as the Joint Advisory Council Charter, and it serves as a gilded cage for the Queen Consort. The timeline of this administrative coup was executed with chilling speed. On May 16th, the king placed his signature on the charter, a move that many insiders believe was the price of maintaining palace unity during his recovery. Just 24 hours later, on May 17th, the digital infrastructure of the Queen's office was severed. Her staff found themselves locked out of independent guest registries and event planning databases. By May 18th, the final blow was struck. Every senior member of Queen Camilla's household was officially notified that they no longer report solely to her. Instead, their primary reporting line now terminates at the desk of Prince William's private secretary. To understand the severity of this shift, one must look at the legal mechanism now governing the palace, a mechanism designed to ensure that the shadow court can never rise again. The protocol operates with the precision of a high-security lock. The first step in this new reality begins whenever the Queen's office wishes to issue an invitation or establish a corporate partnership. That request is no longer sent directly to the printer. it is diverted to the Joint Advisory Council. The second step is the review. This council includes the Prince of Wales as a key voting member with a specific mandate, the power of veto. The third step is where the technology of the palace becomes an instrument of control. If a guest or a partnership does not receive the explicit signature of the heir to the throne, the invitation is not just delayed, it is invalidated at the source. The security mechanism is linked directly to the palace's electronic access systems. If a name is not on the approved council list, their security credentials are automatically deactivated. There is no manual override, no polite appeal to the Queen's personal staff. If William does not sign, the doors simply do not open. The result of this decree is a profound state of administrative isolation for Queen Camilla. To the public, she remains the Queen Consort, appearing at the King's side with the same stoic grace she has maintained for decades. She will still grace the covers of magazines and preside over ceremonial dinners. But inside the machinery of the crown, she has become an administrative ghost. She is a queen who can no longer choose her own guests, a consort who can no longer define her own social circle, and a wife whose every move is subject to the oversight of a stepson who has decided that his tolerance has reached its limit. This Tuesday morning, May 19th, the atmosphere in the Queen's wing is described as ferial. The individuals who once believed they were the new gatekeepers of royal favor are finding themselves sidelined and ignored. The Joint Advisory Council Charter has turned the palace into a fortress of discipline where the personal desires of the consort are secondary to the strategic requirements of the state. As the family prepares for the public spectacle of the summer season, the world will see a unified front. But the ledgers tell a different story. The Queen is in her palace, but for the first time in her tenure, she no longer holds the keys. The question now haunting the corridors of Windsor is what happens to a shadow court when the light is permanently turned off. The rapid collapse of the Queen's social infrastructure was not a sudden burst of palace frustration. It was the result of a 6-week operation executed with the cold, rhythmic precision of a ticking clock. To understand the gravity of this Tuesday morning, May 19th, one must look back at the sequence of events that led to the permanent marginalization of the Parker Bowles faction. This was a masterclass in strategic displacement, moving from the shadows of April into the blinding light of May. The first move was made on April 1st, 2026, at Windsor Castle. While the world was focused on the King's Easter recovery, Prince William began a silent overhaul of the castle's internal security infrastructure. He did not call for a press conference. He quietly authorized the installation of advanced digital access monitoring at every private entrance. These were not just cameras. They were the first stage of a new vetting system designed to track exactly who was entering the private apartments and under whose authority. For the first time in years, the backdoor access enjoyed by social climbers and corporate lobbyists was being recorded in a database controlled exclusively by Kensington Palace. The strategy solidified on April 15th, 2026 during a 4-hour closed-door meeting at Sandringham. Princess and Prince William met in the library away from the prying eyes of the London court. This Sandringham summit resulted in a personnel audit that would change the face of the Queen's household. During those 4 hours, they systematically identified every assistant and aide within the Queen's wing who had facilitated unauthorized access for the Parker Bowles network. By the time they left the room, a list had been finalized. A list of individuals who would soon find their security clearances revoked. This led directly to the climax on May 14th, 2026 at 2:55 p.m. inside Windsor. The world saw the red ink purge at the gates of St. George's Hall. It was the public execution of a plan that had been 6 weeks in the making. Johnny Thompson's presence was the final signal that the King's own protective detail had been integrated into William's new order. In those 300 seconds, the social aspirations of an entire faction were eradicated, leaving the Queen's associates standing on the gravel, disconnected and disgraced. The legal nail in the coffin was struck on May 16, 2026 at Buckingham Palace. King Charles, in an act of profound statesmanship, signed a decree that transferred a broader mandate of estate management to Prince William. This was more than an administrative promotion. It gave the heir to the throne the legal power to veto the use of any royal property for social or commercial functions. It effectively meant that even if the Queen wanted to host an event, she no longer had the authority to authorize the venue without William's consent. This brings us to today, Tuesday morning, May 19th. In the heart of London, the fallout has become visible. Tom Parker BS was spotted earlier today, leaving a high-profile legal firm near Lincoln's Inn Fields. Observers described his demeanor as shaken, his face pale as he was whisked away in a private vehicle. The speculation in the city is that he was seeking legal recourse against the mandate for restrictions, only to be told that the decree signed by the king is ironclad. The operating system of the monarchy has been rewritten. The gatekeepers have been changed. The assistants have been removed. And as of this morning, the man who once moved through the palace with the confidence of a shadow king is now consulting lawyers just to understand if he is even allowed to set foot on royal soil. The timeline of this purge is a roadmap for the future. A future where the House of Windsor is no longer a playground for private interests, but a fortress of duty. But as the legal teams begin their battle, a new question arises. What was? In the final document Tom Parker BS was seen clutching as he left that office? The next 24 hours may reveal a secret that even William hasn't anticipated. As the evening of May 19th descends upon London, the silence within the palace is deceptive. It is the silence of a structure that has been fundamentally re-engineered. And everyone from the senior courtiers to the security detail knows that the Windsor purge was not the end of the story. It was the opening act. As we look toward the critical summer months, three distinct paths lie ahead for the British monarchy, each fraught with historical consequences. The first scenario, and perhaps the most volatile, is one of public defiance. Should Queen Camilla decide to openly resist the administrative cage built by Prince William and Princess Anne, we could witness the most significant internal media war since the era of Princess Diana. In this scenario, the Queen's remaining allies might launch a series of strategic leaks aimed at portraying the Prince of Wales as a cold, unfeeling usurper of his father's authority. It would be a war of the houses played out on the front pages of the global press, potentially damaging the institution's popularity at a time when stability is most needed. The second scenario is one of strategic retreat. In this version of events, the Parker Bowles faction simply goes underground. They withdraw in silence, hoping that King Charles III's eventual recovery will allow him to reverse the Joint Advisory Council charter. They would be betting on the king's personal devotion to his wife to dismantle the mandate for protocols. However, with the new oversight committee already integrated into the palace's financial and security infrastructure, even a healthy king would find it difficult to unscramble the eggs of William's new order. The third, and by far the most realistic scenario, is what insiders are now calling the long winter. This is the definitive implementation of Prince William's vision for a monarchy light. Between now and the spectacle of trooping the color in June, William is expected to continue a relentless, systematic cleansing of every royal household. His objective is clear: an institution that is lean, disciplined, and entirely free of parasitic influences. In William's monarchy, there is no room for social gatekeepers or corporate lobbyists. Every person on that Buckingham Palace balcony must serve a functional institutional purpose. The reason for this uncompromising stance is simple. William believes that the survival of the crown depends on its purity. He is not just removing individuals. He is removing a culture of entitlement that he believes has clouded the reign of his father. By using the period of the king's illness to settle these accounts, William is ensuring that when the crown eventually passes to him, the house will already be in perfect order. But the most chilling aspect of this investigation comes from a source within the Royal Protection Command. They reveal that the work of Lieutenant Colonel Johnny Thompson is far from finished. While the world was focused on the names struck through in red at Windsor, the source claims that Thompson's digital registry still contains 3 more pages of names that have yet to be revealed. These are individuals who have been flagged for institutional misalignment, and their removal is scheduled for the coming weeks. This leads to a terrifying question that is currently haunting every member of the royal family. Who is next on that list? If William was willing to humiliate the Queen's inner
circle at Windsor, who else is vulnerable? A whisper from the security perimeter suggests that the final pages of the registry do not just contain socialites and aides. They reportedly contain the names of at least 2 members of the royal bloodline, individuals who have long believed their position was untouchable. Could we be looking at a purge that extends to the king's own siblings? Or perhaps even a more distant branch of the family tree? The answer is hidden within those 3 unread pages. The next phase of this royal transformation is set to be revealed on May 21st. To ensure you don't miss that explosive update, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you are the first to know when the next names are leaked. The battle for the crown is no longer a secret. It is being fought in plain sight. What do you think William's next move will be? Let us know in the comments below. We will see you for the next briefing on May 21st.